Let's take a look at how we can use cluster info to demonstrate a very simple Canary deployment. So we have a service here that is a simple service, has 6 replicas, a service selector, a public IP, and that public IP is load balancing traffic across those 6 replicas. So let's see what happens when we add an additional deployment that has the exact same service selector. So let's go ahead and do just that. Because it has the same label that the original deployment had, the same service is picking it up and will balance traffic across those 2 deployments. So when we look at the original location, since we started that session on this browser, it's caching that. If we were to take this IP address and put it into a different browser, we can see in a new session that service is balancing the traffic across the 2 deployments and isn't constrained by the original session. Because both deployments had the same label, the service is able to balance the traffic across both deployments and thus implement a very simple Canary deployment. Now, even though technically this is a Canary deployment, this approach isn't very practical in a production environment, because if you wanted to, say, have 20% of your traffic go to the new deployment, you'd have to accomplish that 20% by having 8 replicas of the original deployment and 2 replicas of the new deployment, and then you're still not really guaranteed an equal distribution of traffic between those 2 deployments. So what we just saw was more coincidence than anything else. If you want to do a real Canary deployment, you would use something like an ingress controller and specify the traffic, and have, rather than have this 2 different deployments serviced by the same service, you would have 2 different services service 2 different deployments and use the ingress controller to balance the traffic between them. But what this demonstrates is the disconnection between a service and a deployment, that as long as the selector matches the labels of the deployment, then the same service can balance traffic across 2, 3, 20 different deployments. So that's how you use cluster info to demonstrate a simple Canary deployment.